Hello, everybody. This is Steve Vaughn with the Community Spill, and today we will be touching on desegregation busing in Indianapolis, Indiana, and how it all came about. Me, myself, I remember as a child seeing those buses, the big old yellow buses riding past, and I wanted to ride on them so bad, but in my neighborhood, back in the early 80s, late 70s, we went to neighborhood schools, which is School 69 and School 110, and never experienced busing, even though busing actually started in 1973 in Indianapolis for those kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. I don't know how I dodged it, but I stayed at the neighborhood schools, and for third grade, I finally got my chance to ride on that big old yellow bus. We were bused way out on Medhopper, 43rd Medhopper, School 113. And that's when I seen a world of difference in schooling, and it's like when you're a kid, you know if someone don't like you, and you know when you're being mistreated. And also, I noticed the paddlings were a little bit harder, and just all around, just had a different feeling on that school. And with a kid that age, you don't understand, really what's going on, but you have to go back to the 30s to understand how busing came about. Well, back in the 30s, there were different zones. They were considered zones. It was A through D, with A being green and D being red, which is the worst area you can live in. And by chance, every black area was rated a D.
In 1954, Brown versus the Board of Education found the Board of Education guilty of separating children in public on basis of race. In fact, segregation in Indiana was outlawed in 1949. IPS established what is called the elementary school boundaries in 1953. And all it was is to ensure that the school system remained racially divided. And it wasn't until 1968 that parents of IPS students requested that the Justice Department look into the practices of IPS. And knowing that most residents would not agree with busing, Mayor Richard Lugar, in fear of losing residents, formed what was called UNIGOV. Basically, the joining of city and county merging government services. The fear was that white residents would leave the city for suburban parts. And in 1971, IPS was found guilty of purposeful pattern of racial discrimination. IPS didn't immediately enforce the new rules, so the Justice Department put federal judge S.U. Dillon over the case. Judge Dillon forced IPS to start a one-way busing, which sent IPS students to township schools. Some schools refused the order. In fact, it wasn't until 1981 that Perry, Decatur, Franklin, and Lawrence townships allowed IPS students. Also in 1981, IPS started hiring black teachers in majority white schools, which wasn't happening before. And soon after that, in 1984, the parents of bused students to township schools win the right to vote in suburban school board elections, which was big. Busing finally ended in the 1999-2000 school year when Lawrence and Warren finally stopped receiving IPS students. I can honestly say that I learned a lot early from it. But you know what? I wouldn't trade it for the world. Leave your comments on your experiences with busing. I'd love to hear them. And hit the subscribe button to see future shows. Thanks for listening and much love.